York, and we have a fake football ending on Saturday night, at least from the Baltimore side. Most of you won't watch next Thursday in New Orleans anyway, and given the issues they have down there, I would think the preseason football game doesn't mean a whole lot down there next week. But for our purposes, it was an Olympic month around here. I got to tell you, when you have a wife and you have a television, you have the Olympics on. This guy actually watched the Olympics for Bleacher Report. We welcome Kerry Miller back on. He is the college basketball insider at Bleacher Report, but was watching a little bit of basketball, a little bit of water polo, and anything else that came down the pike on NBC for Bleacher Report. What's going on, Kerry? How's life, man?
Hey, life is good. I noticed there was a lot of crossover, a lot of college basketball guys like Matt Norlander for CBS and Raph Johnson for NBC. I guess there's just nothing better for us to do in the summer, so everybody was covering the Olympics this year.
Well, look, man, it's not often that I sit around and watch water polo in the middle of the afternoon or watch the balance beams or, pole vaulters or hurdlers or any number of things that I saw. I'll say this. Let's just start on the media side, right? Because, I'm a media guy. I noticed the media around it. Just the sheer volume of things that NBC had to cover and the way they covered it and Twitter in real time. And, I know they're pimping the gymnastics, as stars and putting Michael Phelps out on the front of it. But, even adding in the Ryan Lochte nonsense and all the political stuff that went on behind the scenes, it was a spectacle this time around. I sort of couldn't take my eyes off it.
Yeah, I thought certainly NBC did a great job aside from, everybody was kind of griping about the tape delays. I didn't have an issue with that on the East Coast. I was able to stream the gymnastics during the day, so I didn't have to worry about that getting ruined for me before it aired 6 hours later. But I know people on the West Coast were kind of furious with the swimming. They had to wait 3 hours after they saw everybody talking about it on Twitter. So that I don't understand how it's so hard to avoid tape delays in 2016. But other than that, I thought NBC did a great job covering an Olympics that didn't have anywhere near the issues that it sounded like they were going to be. I mean, aside from, we won't know until months or maybe even years from now what kind of ramifications all the Zika virus scares were, but even that didn't sound like a big deal because it was winter down there. There were no mosquitoes out.
Yeah, so for Zika and for the political unrest and the upheaval in their government, not to mention the feces and human waste floating in the harbor, while the folks are out there rowing and swimming and other things, all that fallout. But it is fascinating that the biggest fallout in the world comes from a knucklehead, dumbass swimmer doing knuckleheaded, dumbass things at 4 o'clock in the morning. It really is, I guess, a shame of all of it that this is what we'll remember about the Rio Olympics is this goof with the green hair who made himself look a fool, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we can eventually forget it. Certainly he forgot most of what happened by the following morning. He's been finding out more and more as it goes along, but the whole thing was stupid. I mean, the guy got drunk and then didn't remember what happened. We've all been there. We just haven't all had a gun put in our face at any point during that time, and we didn't have to go on TV and talk about it the next day. That's the big thing that separated us, and the hair color, obviously. But it was such a stupid thing. It should have never been an international incident. I think really the only reason it got so out of control is because as soon as he went on and started talking about it, people were using that as, their number one thing, like, oh, yeah, Rio was as bad as we thought it was going to be. And then Brazil was like, no, it's not that bad. And just this whole he said, she said bunch of garbage. But I hope we're able to forget about it soon once all the details finally do come out and we can forget about it.
You know what's fascinating? I'm a little older than you, Kerry. And, going back into like 72, 76, those Olympics, even 80 with Lake Placid, we didn't participate in Moscow. But, those heroes had a longer tail for the Spitz accomplishments and the Peggy Fleming, Dorothy Hamill, the things that Nadia Comaneci, things that happened back then, those people stayed stars for a longer period because we didn't have basketball and NASCAR and tennis, all these other things going on. And, hey, we got preseason football, and there'll be a new star next week, and they'll be out of the news cycle. It is fascinating that guys like Phelps, have stayed in the news cycle by getting themselves into trouble once they get out of the pool. Phelps is 3 for 4 now. We'll see how he does this time around after winning. But, even for the gymnastics girls, they're superstars for 2 weeks, but it really does kind of go away to some degree much more quickly than I think it did a couple of decades ago, where there was a lot more long tail for the Wheaties box and Bruce Jenner in '76.
Yeah, it's certainly more. There's more going on, more instant gratification. We see things, we worship them really fast on social media, and then we forget about it.
Yeah, Michael Phelps is the greatest thing in the world for 72 hours. Come see me in November and ask me what he's doing, right? The only thing he'll be doing is something wrong in the news, or otherwise he'll just be out of the public eye, hopefully living his life the right way instead of getting arrested in the middle of the night for being stupid.
Yeah, Simone Biles has been a god of gymnastics for the last 3.5 years, but because she wasn't in the 2012 Olympics, she wasn't old enough, nobody really knew about her. She won 3 straight individual all-arounds at the World Championship. She was obviously already one of the best in the world, but now we just have this sudden infatuation with her. And like you said, talk about Simone Biles in November, and nobody will know anything new about her from the 2-3 months leading up to that. It's just weird how we love it. We just gobble it up for 2 weeks, and then we completely forget about gymnastics and swimming.
And by the way, we're glad when it's over, aren't we? They don't need to add 3 more days to the Olympics, right? By day 11, if you don't have some knucklehead, making up stories, the soccer at the end. The basketball is a little bit, and I know that's your game, and obviously you cover that. It's sort of a foregone conclusion, right? I didn't watch one dribble of the basketball, even though it was on, because there wasn't much that compelled me about it. There wasn't a lot of drama in it for me.
Yeah, and there's just, I did see, I think it was Nate Silver, he's always coming up with numbers things, pointing out that the length of the Olympics hasn't changed in the last few decades, but the number of events has almost doubled. So from that perspective, it should kind of get expanded and drawn out a little bit more. So we are able to watch more of these things. Like you were saying, you and I, we both love basketball, but it wasn't really worth watching. There was other better, interesting stuff going on.
I love soccer, and I walked out on Brazil, Germany in the end because I didn't really, I didn't have a dog in the hunt. I know these aren't the best teams. They saved that for the World Cup. Same with the basketball. With soccer and basketball, we're not even seeing the best players, So I think it's kind of hard to take the JV seriously as I sit here and watch preseason football this week here. But at least with some of the off sports, my wife and I, we piss and moan and go back and forth, and I'm going to bring her into a segment. I wanted to do it last week and we didn't. Just on sports that are judged where I don't call. Diving isn't a sport. It's a competition. It's judged. It's not timed. It's not pointed. And I find that I have to laugh out loud when they're giving 9.5s on dancing presentations and synchronize whatever the hell they were doing. But I did find things like water polo to be really interesting. I sat and watched that, and I sat and watched things that hurdles and speed and 800, 400, 200 meter things. I watched a lot more of that this time around, and not as a red, white, and blue flag waver, but just from a human, hey, it'll be over in 30 seconds. I wonder who is the fastest. Oh, there's Bolt again. He won again. But I watched all of that. But it doesn't make me compelled to want to get in a plane and go to Brazil and want to watch it.
It is. You make an interesting point. The things that are judged. It's weird watching, and you're kind of not really sure what the score is, so to speak,
right.
With the gymnastics, specifically with the boxing and how corrupt their judges were, as always. But yeah, any of those sports that are judged, it's just, you don't know right away whether or not the person had a good routine. Even the NBC gymnastics experts would be like, oh, that's going to be, 0.3 of point deduction, and then they're off by a mile because you just don't know what the judges are going to decide. That is a little weird.
Here's Gary Miller. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Carrots James. He is the college basketball writer at Bleacher Report, was covering the Olympics this week. Let's get on to some college hoops because you did the typical summer story of things to watch. All I know here in our region is we're going to watch a lesser basketball team, or at least the perception thereof of the Terps. But I know, there's a story there for everyone, right?
Excuse me. I had to get a drink. My throat's bothering me. But yeah, I wrote today about the, just the big off-season storylines. Obviously, we're still almost 3 full months away from the start of the season. The college basketball off-season is just unreal. I think we still have more left in the off-season than the entire NHL off-season is, but we're getting close. And it's a good time to kind of look at, what are the big stories that teams are going to deal with. I think one that's really interesting that nobody really mentioned is, I pointed out, what effect is the coaching, the Team USA, going to have on Coach K? Most years you can just sit back and do nothing. He's just managing egos. This year he actually had to work, and by the end he looked exhausted. I mean, they were up 36 in the fourth quarter. He didn't seem to get any enjoyment out of it. I wonder how that'll carry over into, Duke's supposed to be the best team in the world, just like USA was. How will he be able to handle that, twice in 1 year?
Well, and I guess for a lot of places, obviously Louisville and North Carolina had their own issues too. I mean, there are a lot of other swirling stories outside of just who's going to be on the floor this year.
Oh, certainly. I mean, you got Amari Spellman at Villanova right now going through the Check Diallo, Scalabissiere, whatever treatment, not cleared by the NCAA yet. Coach is hoping that he will be. Just this whole back and forth thing. Get at least one of those 5-star guys every year, and unfortunately Villanova's getting to deal with it this time. And, one other huge story, Dylan Brooks, he kind of flew below the radar, I guess, because everybody was watching the Olympics. But he had surgery on his left foot, that came out about a month ago, that it was a hot spot that might develop into a stress fracture. He's a legitimate Wooden Award candidate if he's healthy, and if he has to miss any time, Oregon might not be anywhere near as good as we thought they were going to be.
He is Kerry Miller. Terrence James out on Twitter covering all things college basketball and taking a few weeks of R&R now after Olympics coverage. Hey, for the Olympics, your favorite thing during the Olympics that you saw that you were wowed by?
Wowed by was certainly the final leg of the men's 4x1 with Usain Bolt just blowing away the field. I mean, we knew he was going to. We know he's the fastest man in the world, but it was literally laughable how much distance he created in a split second over those other guys from Japan and USA who were right there with him when he got the baton. I thought that was just unbelievable. And if that is the last time we see him run, that's, one heck of a way to go out.
Ledecky also had like a victory that was sort of Tiger Woods secretariat-ish kind of thing. But the Usain Bolt thing's incredible because I think to myself, all right, you can be the fastest guy in the world, but every day? You know what I mean? Like, they say speed doesn't take a day off in baseball vernacular, but it's like at some point you'd think you'd lose a race here and again. I mean, every horse loses a race, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because he tweaked his hamstring, a month and a half before the game started. People didn't even think he was going to be able to run at all, and he's still out there just destroying the field. I mean, that would be the equivalent of, Michael Phelps tearing something in his shoulder, 2 months before the Olympics began, and then going out there and doing what he did, winning 5 golds and a 3-way tie for a silver at, 31 years of age. It's just ridiculous that he was able to do that so shortly after an injury.
Hey, man, enjoy the rest of your summer. It'll be college basketball season for you insiders out there. We'll be following you to Terrence James out on Twitter and out at Bleach Report. Great having you on, Care.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You got a Kerry Miller of Bleach Report joining us there. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. You can download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. I'm headed to Germany next week to meet the man who saved my wife's life twice in the last 2.5 years. It's going to be a big week there. You can follow along on our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. We'll be putting some stuff up as well as some videos and some stories. I've also written a series of blogs that will appear next week as well as as we head to Germany. But it'll be programming as usual around here at WNST.net at AM 1570. And, of course, our morning newspaper will be coming to you at 7 a.m. each and every morning via your email inbox. It's free of charge and powered up by Planet Fitness, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. And any breaking news as the Orioles roster expands here in the next week and as the Ravens roster contracts after this third fake preseason football game on Saturday night, you'll want to be on the text service to get all that breaking news first. It is all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5 and getting you ready for the weekend. I am Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.